Okay.
Council Costa? Council Del Sola?
Yeah, I'd like to have the mayor come up for item number 6, please.
Second.
Who?
The mayor.
Motion made to have the mayor come before us. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I just want the mayor's opinion as a mayor to be on the school committee. I just want everybody's opinion here on this piece. Thank you.
Thank you. I think out of 42 cities and towns, I'd say almost 90% or maybe more of the mayors actually are on the school committee and are the chairperson of the school committee. You know, this should have been done a long, long time ago when we had done the charter change. And at that time, I believe the superintendent at the time did not want the mayor on the school committee. And had almost absolute power on the school committee. I don't believe anybody should have control over school committee members, especially not the superintendent. The mayor is one of the only people who is daily responsible to the residents of the city of Everett for all issues. And why is the responsibilities of who the superintendent is and what goes on in the schools any different than who the police chief is or the fire chief is or the city services commission director is or the city solicitor, or why is it any different? It's not for me. Who knows how much longer, you know, if I will run for another term or not. And it's for the future of the city. The mayor should be a voting member of the school committee. Should be not just imagine being a city councilor at a city council meeting and not having a vote. Just going to a city council meeting and not having a vote. It's actually demeaning to the mayor to have a mayor go to a school committee meeting and not have him or her voting. It doesn't happen in 41 cities and towns. Excuse me, out of the cities. Why should it happen in Everett? And in Everett, it happened too long that the mayor wasn't on the school committee. And we made that change when things were good, and friendships were friendships, and relationships were good. And now supposedly that has changed. And it shouldn't be that way. The mayor is, again, responsible to the residents of the city of Everett, especially when we talked about taxes tonight, right? And about making sure that people are able to live here and feel safe here and get a good quality education. And I think it's imperative. I truly do. And I'd love to answer any questions. I'd like to understand, you know, why this is on the calendar. I heard some comments made, Mr. Chairman, that my attendance was poor. My attendance is not poor. I'm at every meeting, especially the ones that are important. I don't miss them. But I'd like to hear from you all why you think it'd be important to remove the mayor from the school committee. If you have some great reasons why, then I would, you know, maybe like to hear them, you know. But if if you didn't, then I'd like to hear, you know, understand why this is on the calendar tonight. Thank you.
Council Smith?
Through you to Mr. Mayor, I don't have a personal preference whether the mayor is a voting member on the school committee or not a voting member on the school committee. Since day one here, my stance has been home rule petitions are not something that I think that the city council should be doing as often as they do. And in the past, previously when I was not here, they were flying off the table. And I think items that change the charter should go to a vote for the people, and the people should make the decision. So, I mean, the reason that I am, and again, I don't have a preference either way. I think you make a good point. Other cities do it. If that's the people's will, then that's the people's will. I just think that charter changes, and this has been my stance from day one for every single home rule petition that's been done, they should go before the people. The people voted on the charter in 2014, I believe it was. We're now going to change the charter. They should vote on it again to say, I want to change the charter. So that's a big reason why it's back on the calendar, is that Home rule petitions should not be the norm in Everett, and in the past they have been. So let's put it to the vote, and then the people decide. And if the people decide, then you stay on. If the people don't decide, it comes off. Again, I don't have a personal preference either way. It's just I want the people to make the decision. I don't think the city council should be making charter decisions just by themselves. I think that they should be made by the people. So that's kind of just, I know there's no cross to debate, but that's one of a reason why, and it's not just this one, it's my stance on every single home rule petition has been, I do not agree with them. I've been voting against them, except even the ones that we had to do because of Chairwoman Cristiano and now Chairman Mangan, because the voters voted them on, we had to change the charter. I didn't make the decision, the voters did. So I believe the same way here, the voters should make the decision of who gets to be, on why charter changes have to be made.
Councilor Handel.
Mr. Chairman, can I answer the?
Sure.
Thank you. In 2014, when the charter was changed, I think you had 4 members of the Charter Commission who had family members working in the school system. And I'm sure I think, Mr. Latanzi, you were on the Charter Commission in 2011. And I'm sure that the superintendent at the time pressured you all not to have the mayor on the school committee. And you don't have to answer that. But I remember clearly the offset was that they'd give the mayor a 4-year term not to be on the Charter Commission. So politics were played in 2014 with the Charter Commission. And what the Charter Commission should have done was told by not Boston University, Steve McGoldrick where's Steve McGoldrick from? What agency? Steve McGoldrick worked on the Collins Center. The Collins Center, which is one of the most esteemed centers in municipal government, had asked that the mayor be on the school committee, and they decided not to have the mayor on the school committee. So what we did in 2020 is righted a wrong by passing a home rule petition, and Senator DiDomenico and Representative McGonigal were fully supportive of it, and they will not be, and I'm not speaking for them, but they will not be fully supportive of removing the mayor from the school committee. So they were very fully supportive, and so wasn't the speaker and the Senate president. And I don't think you'll get a governor to want to remove a mayor from a school committee. I just don't see it happening. And I think we're going backwards. So what we're doing as a city council in 2020 is we righted it wrong, because it should have been to the voters that time to vote on it. And that's what we had talked about, and the Charter Commission had let us down. So we corrected that, and we fixed that, okay? So I'm asking you all, in good faith and good governance, to refer these items back to sponsor, and let's move the ball forward. Let's continue doing the right thing for the city of Everett on a daily basis, and not play politics with issues that are very important to our children and our families in the city of Everett.
Any questions? Councilor Costa.
Hi, through you, Mr. President. Thank you again, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
So you had mentioned, just to 90% of mayors in Massachusetts are voting members of school committees?
Correct.
And the action that took place in 2020, you're saying made you a voting member of the school committee?
In 2020, yes.
So this is your first full session of being part of, as a voting member. And prior to that, were you a member of the school committee but not voting? Is that how it worked?
It was a ex officio member.
Okay, so you were always a member. This just allowed you a vote.
Never were able to vote.
Okay, up until this current session that's in place now.
Correct.
Okay. And you had mentioned, just because this becomes important to people, and this isn't me, so, because I know people get very sensitive and everything.
Yeah.
But you had mentioned your attendance, right? And it's
Yeah.
important. So what is your attendance this year?
I think it's great.
No. But what's the number?
I have no idea.
I've left one since June. Obviously, I came on appointed in June.
Yeah.
And I've left one early, right? So I think a lot of us would keep that. Right? I think I've heard Council Matusky tell me how many he's missed in however many years. So you're not exactly sure, but most you're saying.
Yeah, I think my record's impeccable.
Okay. And you agree, though, that originally this should have gone to the voters. You agree with
Absolutely.
that? This should have gone to the voters.
Absolutely.
And you believe that righting the wrong of it not going to the voters was having this homeroom petition change the charter. You believe that?
Yes.
So but it still didn't go to the voters, right?
Well, you're all elected by the voters, right?
Well, not me, but yeah.
Yeah, they're all elected by the voters to do their job, to govern for them. Elected officials are elected by the voters to govern. And by passing a home rule petition, those that appointed you, voted for you, asked you to make those decisions for them in the best interest of them.
Right.
And in 2020, they did that.
And that's, that's a permanent thing, right? It doesn't get every 2 years because I don't take this seat home. This isn't my seat. This seat stays here regardless of who occupies it.
That's right.
So that could change. But the people sitting at home, those residents, that means something. That's a stamp.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm just going to resonate the words from Council Smith. I don't want to regret, but I think home rule petition changes just, and especially at the clip that they're changed, does kink credibility.
So the charter was changed in 2020, and it's now 2023, and I think we've had 2 additions. One was for the mayor to be on the school committee, and the other was for your clerk and the veterans officer to get, I believe, paid at the city council, at the school committee meetings, who ran for the position, and they couldn't get paid at the time, but then wanted to get paid, so we changed it for them. I don't know. I don't know if the voters would have liked that one, but I think the voters, if you poll your residents and just don't poll the ones that email you, but if you poll your neighborhood, I'm sure they would.
I walk a lot.
I see you. So don't I. We live in the same neighborhood. And if you would ask your neighborhood, your residents, or you ask the parents of the kids in the schools, you'd ask the parents, do you actually want to have your mayor on the school committee as a voting member? I would almost guarantee 99% of those parents would say did want their mayor on the school committee voting on behalf of their children. And this is not to do with Carlo Di Maria. This is to do with the position of mayor being a voting member of the school committee.
And I respect the sentiment, but I do think that the vote is important. And I'll just leave it at this. I've heard this a lot here, especially when it comes to the development, the parking, the traffic, and all this. It's like, if you build it, they will come, right? So during that time of the previous superintendent, obviously we're all well aware of the very, graphic news that has come out recently. But during your time as a ex officio member, for many years, because you've been elected here as an official many years, as a mayor many years, did you attend? Did you take on that aspect of, even though I'm not a voting member, if you build it, they will come. I'll come here and kind of give my input, give my advice. And so was that? Did you attend prior to this current session?
No, we had meetings. The superintendent and I met at least twice or maybe 3 times a week, either here, the majority of the time was here at City Hall. And we discussed all the issues that needed to be discussed regarding the schools. So going to a school committee meeting where every single one of the school committee members was in his favor, because they were all in his favor, as we know. Right? Let's not be foolish here. They were all in his favor.
Got a lot of
they were
same
all
people
in. They were all in his
place.
favor. Okay, so there was no need for me to go to a meeting where every single member of the school committee was in his favor and did exactly what he wanted.
Well, but some of that, as mayor, for example.
And if I was going to a meeting, it's like going to a gunfight without a gun, So I wasn't going to a gunfight, okay, without a gun, because I'd be the only. I think Councilwoman Smith's dad was one of the only school committee members who actually was a member of the school committee that would fight the superintendent and had no backup ever. I wasn't going there as a mayor to be embarrassed by the school superintendent. I'm sorry, without being able to vote and just give my opinion and what? Just sit back and wait to how people would vote? Not have any bargaining power with other members of the school committee? No. So I appreciate
I'm an eye test guy.
I appreciate you want to not believe with align with me on this issue, and that's fine.
No, I think we align in
Oh,
that
all right.
it should have originally gone to voters. I think
should have.
we align on that.
It should have originally
we
gone,
align
it
on
should
that,
have originally
that-
gone to voters. I
Okay.
totally agree.
So I think that's great. And
Yep.
communication, you talk about a gunfight. I mean, I just would love to see.
It's kind of like you talk about Achilles heel. I'm just using that as a.
No, yeah. I just, my hope is that there's collaboration, regardless of, who's in this seat, who's in that seat.
I am a great collaborator, my friend.
I try so hard to collaborate,
You wouldn't be elected in office for 30 years if you weren't a good collaborator.
I don't doubt that at all, right? I'm gonna leave it with, for in like fatal flaws, right? I visited the schools. I visited Cavarian. I visited the high school.
Yeah.
I've taken walkthroughs during session. I hated interrupting the kids' lives. There is a crowding issue, I believe.
absolutely.
And
And we have a plan to work on that.
like for example, and again, this is like the collaboration, right, with the Devon School, for example, and we need to hear back at some point about that. But the disconnect. It's a surplus building. We rent it back. The rent was then charged to the school budget for years, meaning we probably weren't hitting our minimum at that point because of right. So it's like I just
See,
want
the history, you need to know the history about the Devon School. And I think Councilman Marchese, maybe Mr. President Hanlon, Mayor Hanlon knows the history. It was told to us that they were gonna, when I voted against actually selling the building, but it was sold, and then then this developer had come in and redeveloped this building, and then the schools leased it back, but the schools were gonna pay for it, so there was no cost to the city, right? There was no cost to the city, and they were gonna tuition in children and bring in funds for the revolving account to pay for it. So it sounded like a win-win situation. That's what was sold to us. But then the change, now you cannot, now the city has to pay the fees and expenses for this building that houses 80 children. And I don't know how many of them are tuitioned in. Is it, so we're working on those issues, right? We're working on those issues.
And the only thing I'm leaving it with is I love collaboration.
Absolutely.
So in the spirit of that, I just hope that spirit continues to grow for not only yourself and the folks that you're more accustomed to working with, but yourself and everyone at the table, including myself and others that maybe haven't been here for as long, and maybe acknowledge that they can add value also.
Mr. Costa, my door's always open. Anytime you want to come and talk about any issue, you can talk to me. My house is only about a block away from you. Come by and talk to me anytime you'd like. Yeah.
Any more questions? Ms. Hanlon, I missed you before, right? I'm sorry. And now, Councilor Lattanzi, I'm sorry.
Mr. Mayor, regarding item number 6, and it says, a ballot question to remove you from the voting, from the member of the school committee. How did you get on the school committee, and to start off with?
The city council in 2020 did a home rule petition, I believe. Home rule petition submitted to the State House to make the mayor a voting member, voice and vote member of the school committee.
So you actually had to go to the polls to be voted on? You didn't go to the polls.
I get voted on as mayor.
I mean, oh, no, I meant as a member of the school committee.
No, I get voted on by the people to serve as, which is the highest office in the city, as mayor. If I were to run for school committee, I would win with just put my name on the ballot, I think, Mr. Mayor.
No, what I'm saying is that, it's the people of Everett that decided to put you where you are. And I think it should be about the people of Everett that should dismiss you. And that would be to have someone run against you. And if that person that runs against you would then become the member of the school committee, correct?
I agree, yes.
So I don't think we need either of these things.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Mayor.
So, Mr. Mayor, you only have one vote.
One vote.
You don't control it.
No.
Why all of this going on about you getting off and going to the voters? I would not support this. I would like you to stay.
Thank you.
Keep an eye on what's going on. I think it's important. The mayor should be involved in everything. That's just
I agree.
It's not about you. It's about the seat, the mayor. It's not about Di Maria. It's about the seat. It's just how I feel.
I
I
agree.
like the idea of a mayor being on boards. More boards he should be on.
Council Martin.
Thank you, Mr. President. I called the clerk about the process, so I'm in favor of public opinion, but I'm just puzzled because when they do receive this, they'll be like, well, you just voted in favor and now you're voting against it, and I don't think it's going to go anywhere. So I don't know if I asked you, like, is this, should this be a getting signatures thing? And
That's
I don't know
another
what to
option,
say,
yes.
'cause
There's
I
multiple
don't think-
options
yeah.
to change a charter under state statute and under our charter. So there's a multitude of ways you can do it. This is, I stated this was a process. You did a different process in 2020. I think it officially passed in 21. I think it took like 6, 7 months by the time I think it took effect, if I'm not mistaken. So it's up to the voters, it's up to the council, it's up to the mayor. I mean, there's a multitude of processes. So this is just a process. I was asked for the process, and I brought you the process. I mean, it's up to you
So
if
the
you want to
question
vote for it or
before- The
not.
question before us, we have 2, 6 and,
Can we?
Six
excuse
is-
the mayor
six
to
is-
necessary things if there's
Wait,
no
I'm still
questions?
speaking. Can I
No,
finish?
I'm sorry,
you had so
Councilman-
much questions for him.
I'm
Councilman.
just saying that I agree with Councilor Smith that either way, for me, it's fine, I'm not, but I just don't think this is gonna work and go anywhere. So, and I don't know.
call for vote.
And to your question, 6 and 12, they're two different items. 6 was just a request to ask me to get information. That's just a refer back to sponsor. 12 is the actual vote up or down if you'd like to ask the legislature to start this process. Just so you know.
Mr. Chairman,
And if we don't have questions for the mayor, we should excuse him.
So let's say, so like if people really want this to happen, can they then go and get signatures and make it happen?
Yep, there's always the ballot initiative process. I don't remember what section of charter, 8-3 or 4 or 5, something like that. Yes, there is a ballot initiative process also.
Can we excuse the mayor if no one has any questions for him? With the
Sure.
customary things?
Motion made to excuse, just excuse me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now let's work on number 6.
6 is just a refer back to sponsor. That one's simple.
Refer back to sponsor.
Second that.
Motion is item number 6, right?
Council Mountains, right?
Yeah.
You both, yes, Smith and Mountains referred this back?
Smith and De La
Oh,
Sola.
sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Motion made and seconded, refer this back to sponsors, number 6 now, okay?
Yes.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Refer it back to
Opposed? It's